We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including trade talk around a variety of NHL teams, including the Ottawa Senators, Edmonton Oilers, the Buffalo Sabres, Philadelphia Flyers, and a few others as well. Plus, we have big news around a few teams, including the Winnipeg Jets of Mark Scheifele making history here tonight. Some very interesting comments from Leaf goaltender Anthony Stolarz post-game after an overtime loss to the Seattle Kraken. We have a bunch of injury updates and a big update from Elliotte Friedman regarding the Sens and pending RFA Sens-Pinto. It looks like a big deal is on the table for a potential extension. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in tonight's video. All kinds of NHL action here today. It's been a very fun-filled hockey day for sure. But one of the most interesting things I think that came about from today's action is comments from Leaf goaltender Anthony Stolarz in tonight's Hockey Night in Canada matchup. The Toronto Maple Leafs are doing battle with the Seattle Kraken, who are on an East Coast tour here. We've seen them play the Habs and the Sens here recently and make their way up to Toronto today. It was a pretty good game, back and forth overall. The Leafs ended up losing in overtime. The Leafs had trailed multiple times, like Seattle scored first, and then the Leafs kept answering, and then it ended up going to overtime, ultimately with the Kraken getting the advantage and scoring the overtime winner. But after that overtime winner, like I said, Stolarz, well, let's just say he was pretty ticked off. And he was pretty blunt in his post-game interviews. And on the play that ensued here, it was basically, I guess you could say, what looked like a lazy back check from William Nylander. Now, anybody who knows hockey and follows the Leafs or just watch the Leafs a lot, you know Willie Nylander's been around the league a long time. Great player, incredibly skilled, smooth skater. But sometimes, every once in a while, he'll make a play that drives you nuts, and it's usually a lack of effort. Whether it's a bad forecheck, bad back check, it's usually defensive in some way. And this was one of those cases. And Stolarz had the following to say. He says, a lot of guys have been here a while. Overtime, you can't let someone beat you up the ice there. You get a clear-cut breakaway. A minute left. You want to be on the ice in that situation, you got to work hard. It cost us a point. And he's not wrong. He really isn't wrong. In 3-on-3 overtime, there is a lot of action. There's a lot of ice. And you got to be, busting your butt out there, or you're probably going to give the other team an odd man break or a breakaway. It's just a fact. He's not wrong in the least. But yeah, it seems like there's a little bit of a, I don't know what you want to call it, turmoil in Toronto. I don't think it's anything that deep. Obviously, frustration after a loss, but not always hearing players kind of speak to the media, in a way that kind of throws a teammate, under the bus, so to speak, or whatever. But Stolarz is a guy who's obviously last year was his first year. He just signed a 4-year extension, which could take him towards the end, if not the end of his career. If you look at it, he's already 31. So, by the time he gets through the current year and the 4-year extension, he's probably going to he might finish his career as a Leaf. It's hard to say. And they want to win, and just that simple. So, like I said, with Nylander, unfortunately, you're not going to teach an old dog a new trick at this point. I don't see Willie changing, but you have to take the good with the bad. It's just that simple. And, I'm not excusing him at all, because it's a lazy play and he needs to be better in that situation. But I've seen it a lot over the years where he'll do stuff like this. But yeah, it's definitely some frustration in the Leafs locker room for sure. Now, on a more positive note, Jets centerman Mark Scheifele, the first ever draft pick after returning to the great city of Winnipeg after moving from Atlanta, has now become the team's all-time leading scorer. Now, of course, keep in mind, this team does not have Winnipeg Jets 1.0 history attached to it. That went with them to the Coyotes team, and then that kind of ended there. So that history is kind of lost in a sense. I'd like to see them give that back. But for right now, the Atlanta franchise is where things started, went to Winnipeg. So the history of the Winnipeg Jets 2.0 is during the Atlanta-Winnipeg era. And right now, Mark Scheifele scored the first goal of the game tonight, became the team's all-time leading scorer to pass former teammate, former line mate, former team captain, Blake Wheeler. So that's a big honor for him. Of course, Wheeler's retired, not with the team anymore. So Scheifele will only continue to build upon his lead as the team's all-time leader in that right. So good on Mark Scheifele. Nice little milestone in his back pocket. I'm sure his bigger picture here is to win a Stanley Cup for Winnipeg and for himself. But goes to show how important he is to that team. We do have news from the waiver wire today as well. The Chicago Blackhawks have placed forward Joey Anderson on waivers. We'll find out in the middle of tomorrow afternoon. I believe it's 2 o'clock Eastern, if there's any claims or if he can be reassigned to the American Hockey League. Now, we've got a bunch of injury updates here today, and we also have another player taking a leave of absence. We saw Nick Foligno leave the Blackhawks for family reasons because of a big surgery on for his daughter. And we don't know the exact details here, but Brandon Montour has had to leave the Seattle Kraken team on a temporary leave of absence as well. All we know is it's some sort of family situation. Don't know anything more. Don't need to because it's his own personal private situation. Obviously a big loss for the Kraken, but as we just discussed, they still pulled off a big win tonight without him. So we certainly want to wish him well with whatever he's dealing with, and hopefully he gets back soon. The other injury updates around the NHL today, the Red Wings announced Patrick Kane is going to miss some time. Missed probably at least one game, if not maybe a couple. We'll have to wait and see, but he did go into the boards hard the other day, and he's considered day-to-day for the time being. The Minnesota Wild defenseman Zach Bogosian's hurt, so even though Jiricek just went down to the minors, he did play a game because with the new rules now, you can't just go down on paper. You do have to play at least one game to be recalled, but he has done that. He played last night. So the Wild have recalled Jiricek. Montreal announced a few injury updates here today in their game. They lost this evening to the New York Rangers. It was a tightly contested matchup. I know going into the third period, it was a 2-1 Montreal, and then the Rangers actually came alive and scored 3 goals in about 6 minutes. And then the Rangers took a 4-2 lead. The Habs got one back, make it 4-3, but ultimately couldn't get it tied up. But Caden Guhle missed tonight's game, and he's going to be out for a while. Guhle did suffer an injury the other night, and he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. We had discussed in the last day or two that he was going to be out, but we didn't have a timeline yet. Now we know. So that's going to be an important loss for them. He plays a lot of minutes in the top 4, so certainly Guhle's absence will be felt for sure. And Kirby Dach is injured, as well as Patrick Laine. Neither injury is believed to be serious. They're calling both day-to-day for the time being. So obviously both those guys have a major injury past. I hope they're not downplaying anything, because like I said, for either of them to miss significant time would be a big blow for their own personal seasons, not to mention hurting the team. So we'll see, but for right now, they're not calling either of them serious, but they will be out for at least a little bit here. They missed tonight's game, may miss another. We'll have to wait for further updates, I guess. Seattle not only lost Brandon Montour today, but we also got an update on Freddie Gaudreau, who got hurt in their game the other night against the Senators. He did suffer an upper body injury in that game, and now they've announced it's 4 to 6 weeks for him as well. So again, some reasonably serious injury there. The Anaheim Ducks have recalled defenseman Ian Moore, so we'll see if he gets into some NHL action. The Lightning have recalled Steven Santini and Scott Sabourin. Nikita Kucherov also missed tonight's game. It's the second straight game he's missed due to illness. So I assume he's battling a bad flu or something, because not often you see players missing multiple games for that. Unless it's real bad, of course. The Florida Panthers also lost today after winning their first 3 games. They've now dropped 4 straight as the Panthers got shut out by the Buffalo Sabres, the subtly hot Sabres, after an 0-3 start. Have now won their their last 2 games here against the Sens and the Panthers. A couple big divisional matchups, but they've now lost Nico Mikkola to an upper body injury. He only left the game. It just happened today, so we don't know a timeline yet. But they're already without Barkov for the season. They're already without Matthew Tkachuk till at least Christmas, if not January. They're without Dmitry Kulikov for 5 months. If the Mikkola injury turns out to be, even if it's serious enough to miss 4, 5, 6 weeks or something like these other guys that we talked about, that's going to be a big blow for them. He is a really steadying impact there on that top 4D. So we'll see for an update on Mikkola, but that could be another blow for the Panthers. The Jets also brought back, they've recalled Brad Lambert from the minors. Jonathan Marchessault also did not play in today's game for the Predators. He's out. We don't have a timeline on him just yet, because that just happened here as well. Now, a bunch of other updates here around the NHL. We're going to get into some trade talk in a minute, but before we do, actually a couple things on the Ottawa Senators. Elliotte Friedman made one topic part of his discussion on the headline segment on Hockey Night in Canada tonight, and that's the NHL's leading goal scorer, the red-hot Sens-Pinto, who is a pending restricted free agent forward with Ottawa, currently leading the league, had a hot start, and as the absence of Brady Tkachuk grows, his importance and everything to that team is going to grow. And to be honest, during his absence, I think he's what I would refer to as like the emotional leader in that team. He's not Brady, but he's still taken on, to me, a more of a bigger impact, and really we've seen anybody else step up so far. So in all fairness, he's a real good, important player for them, plays in all situations, and is really, I think, on a mission this year to prove that he's not just a two-way guy. He can be a high-end offensive guy with good defensive metrics as well. Elliott's reporting that the Sens have tabled an 8-year offer for Pinto. There was some negotiations in the offseason around an extension. Steve Staios and the Sens did try to get ahead of it, but there was a gap in negotiations that they weren't able to overcome. They weren't in a big rush anyway because he is restricted. They did, like I said, they tried, they worked on it. It was believed that the Sens offer was between $5.5 to $6 million on a longer term deal. I don't know if they were talking 8 years or if it was like 6, 7 or something like that, but it was in the $5.5 to $6 range. Believe that Pinto's agent, who's a notorious hard bargain driver, that's what I like to call him, that they're looking for something at least 7, if not closer to 7.5, 8. I don't know if they'll get up to 8, but essentially, if you look at the top two centers, or at least on paper for the Sens, is Stützle and Cousins, and then you get Pinto, who's really effectively playing like he's a 1 right now. But long term, is he going to be a 1 or a 2? It's quite possible. I would not be shocked at all if over time, between like maybe Cousins goes to the wing, or like today they changed the lines and they put Stützle with Cousins and Batherson. That line was dynamic. So again, you put 2 centermen together, and then you have Ridley Gregg, who can also go back to center. They have some options on how to rejig their lineup, but essentially, from Pinto's perspective, as good as he's been, you know, he's gonna. What Elliott's saying, he's like looking at the Dylan Cousins contract around just over $7 million. You get the Tim Stützle contract, a little over $8 million, and he's gonna probably be bargaining like, well, I'm just as important as these guys, and I'm putting up numbers as good or better than Cousins. You know, maybe I'm not as dynamic as Stützle, but I'm playing in all situations, so they're probably looking for something in between. So like 7.5, 7.75, like something along those lines sounds like what it might take to get it done, and we'll see. Now, Elliotte says there's nothing imminent here as of yet. He didn't think it was to that stage, but the Sens are trying. It sounds like they've increased their offer and put what they hope to be well-received 8-year deal on the table. We'll have to wait and see when we hear any further updates on, obviously, if he signs, we'll know. And if they're going to continue to negotiate, if there's still a gap, then we'll have to wait and see. But Pinto has proven to be a big part of that team and the core piece, so they certainly would like to lock him up as long as you can, for sure. Another interesting note on the Senators from Chris Johnson of TSN. He says on his latest podcast show that he feels, from what he's heard around the league, that the Senators would like to make another significant move this year. So far, the trade market hasn't really opened up yet, and so they're kind of waiting to see where things go. He didn't really specifically say, you know, a certain player they were targeting or what position per se. My gut feeling, if they're looking to make a big splash this year, I think it might be on the right side of their defense. If you look at how the season has started for them, they've been able to score goals. Goaltending hasn't been awesome, but they have enough money invested into it that they kind of need to stick with it and hope that it's good enough. But on the blue line, we know Nick Jensen had a major surgery in the offseason. He had the hip, same sort of hip surgery we've seen other guys have, like Kane and Backstrom and those guys. So it's significant. He came back in a good amount of time. He's skating well, but you can tell he doesn't pivot the way he used to. Going one side's definitely stronger than the other, and he's not. Like, to me, he's kind of lost a little bit of that mobility. And if you look at the ice time amongst their top 6 defense, even though he's theoretically a top 4, he's playing the least. So I think Jordan Spence has been a nice revelation for them. He's been, playing really well. But I don't know that they're really ready for him to be consistently in the top 4 either. So after Artem Zub, it's kind of a bit of a drop-off because of Jensen's mobility issues, and then you got Spence, who's good, but has, like we saw him get, bullied off the puck by Andersley in the Islander game today at the end, which would turn out to be the winning goal. So, like, lots of upside with Spence. I think he's a good fit there, but ideally, if he can be your 3 and you can have a better 2, and Jensen's only signed for this year as well. So, like, long term, there's definitely some big question marks. They do have Carter Yakimchuk in the minors, and I think they still certainly hope that he plays a big role in the team's future too. But I think if they're going to make a big move, I kind of wonder if it could be in that position. But it could also be a top 6 scorer too. 'Cause to me, they need that too. Like, there's a little bit of everything there, and obviously missing Brady Tkachuk, it just kind of makes it a little bit more emphasis on it right now, but we'll see. I don't think that they're in a huge hurry. They're looking for internal options for the time being, and they'll do that later in the year when the right opportunity presents itself. In Edmonton, Frank Saravalli reporting that Matthias Janmark's probably going to find himself on the move. As Zach Hyman gets closer to returning, they're going to need to make some cap moves to make it possible to activate him. And Janmark, who signed for this year and next at $1.45 million, is a logical cost-cutting move. So if your team's looking for somebody to play in their bottom 6, kill penalties, half-decent speed, I don't think they'll have trouble moving Janmark. I think he's got enough value that another team would see him as a help or an upgrade in certain areas. Like I said, just for that experienced bottom 6 guy, it can be, quick and help you kill penalties. Like 2 years ago in the playoffs, he was amazing on the PK. So I'm not sure how much he's got left in the tank, but expect him to move to accommodate a Hyman return. In Philadelphia, Dave Pagnotta's reporting that Emil Andre, the young defenseman's probably going to find himself on the move this year, and that San Jose is a team to watch. He thinks the Sharks have more of a long-term interest. They have a ton of guys on expiring deals or near expiring deals that are going to be moved at various points in the season. You're probably looking at guys like Mario Ferraro finally probably moves, Timothy Liljegren, Nick Leddy, Vinny Desharnais, John Klingberg. It's possible all those guys could move. So they're trying to find some younger D around the NHL that might be, not necessarily 18, 19 years old, but maybe not early 20 range with a little bit of pro experience that they can kind of help grow with this team as well. And apparently it sounds like Emil Andre might be one that they kind of have their eye on to keep in mind down the road. Now, for veteran defensemen, again, talk today from Elliot Friedman that the Red Wings are definitely trying to move Eric Gustafsson for sure, to some degree, Hamonic as well. They may have to keep one guy around as a 7th D, so maybe that turned out to be Hamonic, I'm not sure. But Gustafsson has gone down to the minors, and that he is available, obviously, for trade, and the Red Wings would like to find another opportunity for him. It hasn't quite worked out there in Detroit this year for sure. Also in Buffalo, I know couple of names to watch. Dave Pagnotta was reporting about the Alex Tuch situation on his contract. Now, they've won the last couple of games, so like I said it back a few videos ago, winning solves everything and quiets things down. So they've won their last 2 games. It's probably going to quiet things down a little bit in Buffalo, but until we're a little bit further along in the season that we have a better idea on a bigger sample size what this team is, it could come back. And either way, like we know that the Tuch negotiations were kind of paused because of the bad start to the season by the team. But he said essentially that for Tuch to sign at this point, considering what they've been through as a team, they might have to overpay to get him to stay. And it might be more than $11 million. It might be like closer to 12 than 11 to get him to lock into an 8-year deal. And again, talk about the fact that he does have family connections through his wife to Western Canada. Whether or not the Oilers or the Canucks could be a fit for him if things don't work out in Buffalo could also be something that you see. So again, we'll see there. But another interesting name that Jeff Merrick brought up on his program is he wonders about Devin Levi. He thinks there's something to it, the fact that Levi might get moved, the fact that he's still in the minors, and it's just seems like with all the goalies that the Sabres brought in, there wasn't really a clear path for him to the NHL this year. And I was just surprised to have him basically be set up to do another full year in the American Hockey League. I found that rather surprising. So Merrick thinks that it's possible that he could be available. He kind of wonders what's going on with Levi, and that as this team probably looks to make some moves throughout the year, that he could be a name to certainly watch there as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But a very, like I said, interesting, busy day in the world of hockey. All kinds of news and rumors around the NHL. Let me know your thoughts on everything down below in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.